Hello,
Okay.
welcome to the Kaze-kan Comcast.
Okay.
I,
So you're doing the intro first?
that'd be a first, right?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Hey, this is 4 out of 10. It was good, but you.
Hey, I'm trying to get good.
Yeah. Get good. I hope there's no game journalists listening. Low jab. Okay. Now that the bad puns out of the way. Yeah. Hey, welcome everybody. This is the seventh episode. I'm losing track of the our count already.
Sixth episode?
No, it's the seventh because we did remember we did one before that, and the one we did just like a few days ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, where before we babble on, I guess I'll start off with some. Where are we now? Not necessarily, or just a life update. Um, I was recently just got my hands on Devil May Cry 5. I'm having a blast with it. I just beat the first few missions as Nero. About to do V's missions, but I kind of put it down. I mean, I think I won't be able to put it down once I get a control of Dante, because that's the one I'm really hyped for.
Eh, V sound, V feels pretty chill.
Oh no, I don't think V's bad. He's personally on a personal scale, he's just not my cup of tea. Like he doesn't have anything that makes me go, oh, I can't wait to play as him. Dante has gauntlets and a motorcycle. Enough said. And I just always like playing as Dante. From 4 to 3. Nero's
Well, that's
fun.
the weird thing. I enjoyed Nero more than I enjoyed Dante in 4. Now,
Yeah,
5 is different, but when it comes to 4, the thing that irritated me about Dante is hardcore Devil May Cry players, you know what I'm saying when I say this. Circle trick, circle trick, circle trick.
yeah.
You,
He
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
If you deep into Devil May Cry and you play must style, you constantly getting triples S's, that gets irritating after a while.
yeah. No, Nero's fine as a character. It's a little weird to like his Devil Breaker doesn't work as it does. But I mean, it was all to introduce the
I
whole
mean,
idea.
he doesn't shift the styles too much, but that's all right with me. And they kinked it out a lot with in 5 to where you can still do what you did in 4, but when it comes down to its combos are a lot more smooth. You're not trying to play like a bat out of hell to get your combos in.
Oh yeah, no. The ease of it is that it's a lot easier to pull off some combos in this game than it isn't for. But I just meant you've got when you adjust yourself to similar gameplay, it just kind of changes. It's like how some people are playing Sekiro and it's like they got to unlearn themselves to play this game because they're playing it more like a Bloodborne or Dark Souls when it's a entirely different game itself.
Yeah. Speaking of said Sekiro, I just got through beating the game.
Oh, how was that?
Mm, did I know the meaning behind the ending or the true ending? People tell me I got. Fuck no, I don't. I don't. I didn't understand the ending.
Is it kind of
I
like
just
blood?
thought,
Is it kind of like Bloodborne's ending where it's up to interpretation of what happens?
yeah, but they leave a little bit of wiggle room for a sequel, which
We know it's
I
gonna
mean, down
come.
for it. Yeah, because it did good
Look,
for as far as
just
I heard.
I'm all fine and dandy with From Software making Sekiro Shadows Die thrice. But please,
Can we
please,
please get a Tenchu game?
thank you. I was just about to say Tenchu. Oh my gosh, I don't want a remake. I want a whole new game.
I don't want a Souls Tenchu game.
And
I just want a Tenchu game.
and if it doesn't have Rikimaru, or Ayame, then it's not the same. I mean, I know in Tenchu Z you could. I heard like it's a customizable character, but I didn't have an Xbox 360.
It wasn't worth it.
Yeah. Uh, I still think it would be interesting to play. I think the best one is Wrath of Heaven. I remember I watched my cousin play it. He had the Xbox One. I mean, the original Xbox version of it.
Man, I had so much fun with Raphael, especially when I unlocked when I figured out like you can play around with this thing called the B side. Nice, fun, like nothing balls to the walls crazy. Pretty much, it was like one of those cheesy Asian flicks that you watched back then, where it had the crappy lip syncing, but it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, they really pay homage to that, like with the blood splurting. But I feel like I want to say I may be wrong, but maybe Sekiro is a tech demo to show off the engine that they made for it, so that they can make a proper Tenchu game. That's wishful thinking for me, but it just feels like we're this close. Like they're sitting on a what is it called? It's a sleeper here with this like if they made a Tenchu game with using like Sekiro's engine, I mean, which is pretty much just the Bloodborne engine and Dark Souls 3 engine. I'd be down
People
with
will
that.
gobble it up.
I would gobble it up, but it has to be Ricky Maru and the it has to be based on those characters. I may, yeah, if you can't get the same voice
Or make
actors,
a continuation of Tenchu 4, which oh man, that Tenchu 4 that was underrated. I just because they put it on the Wii and the PSP, no one ever played it. But if you actually played it on the PSP, like I did, I'll have to say that was mostly grounded in realism to where
I don't really care about realism. I just want another proper ninja stealth game.
hold on another cut.
Okay.
Hello. What's up? That was probably a bud dial on accident. All right, man. All right, bro. On your cell phone, butt dials.
Sorry for the awkward cut there, guys. Uh, so what were we talking about? Oh yeah,
Uh,
you were talking about the Tenchu 4.
yeah. Tenchu 4 was on. When I played Tenchu 4 on the PSP, it was grounded in realism and whatnot to where you had a sword, but you didn't use a sword in the traditional sense to where the only time you use a sword is if you wanted to get a stealth kill or if you wanted to break a padlock. Most of the other times you're using your bare hands to do the stealth kills or your ninja tools, and
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
yeah. Either way, Sekiro is a good introduction to like this whole stealth mechanics, and I think once people realize that it's if they focus a little bit more on stealth in the next game, people will try to realize, hey, this is more of like it's not a, it's not the same thing. I just kind of like I feel that some parts of
Something
the
just tells me they don't want to go back to the old formula. They rather just stick to the Dark Souls formula, which I'm not gonna lie to you. This formula is getting pretty stale.
no, yeah, like there's only like it's the world building. I understand that the Dark Souls has its like fan base, but for me personally, I can care less about the implied world building because none of it's set in stone and a lot of it is left to up
Bro,
to
this is not
interpretation.
not no deep lore as much as they put as much as the fan like playing through the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and now Sekiro. When I look at the whole Dark Souls folklore, it's the fan base tries to make it as though it's a deep story, but I could just summarize it in a couple words. It's love medieval Lovecraft. That's all.
Well, I think the thing is that there's people and there's things that happened. There's a basic concept of the story, and most people like would if anybody would ask, how did that happen? It's kind of like nobody knows for sure. It's just kind of left in the air.
Like I said, medieval Lovecraft.
No, no, no,
No
no.
one understands how to kill the monsters or where the monsters came from. They just know that somehow they had to get a W in the end. And then when they think they got the W in the end, they don't get the W. Instead, they get an L, and then the L gets passed on from for a generation or two. Next game, or a prequel game.
I
Take your pick,
I think most
or a
people.
spinoff.
I think it's really just when it all boils down to is the minimalist approach when it comes to storytelling. A lot of the world building is through the weapon item descriptions. A lot of it are just from what they've said and running the NPC dialogue till back to when it repeats. Because once it repeats, you got all the dialogue until you unlock more later on. But
I can honestly say the whole thing of Dark Souls is so dark. It's the stories is like no, it's just dark to be dark. It's like I get it. You're not. You're fucked either way.
I think I think the two that got it right, but it's more along the lines of because of how games were at the time, it seems like a breath of fresh air because Demon Souls and Dark Souls came out in an era where those kind of games shouldn't have succeeded. Most games that were coming out were either Gears of War, like third person shooters, like cover based shooters, or first person shooters with maybe one or a sprinkle of very below to above average RPGs with a few sleeper hits that most people don't talk about until it gets trendy to talk about it because they become hidden gems.
Yeah.
So like
It's like,
Dark
oh, I wanted to play it. I wanted to play it, or I played it back then. No, you didn't. You didn't care about it. In fact, you said it was lame, but now people are talking about it.
like
You suddenly all of a sudden care.
like Dark Souls came out when when shooters were everywhere. Dark Souls around that time is a breath of fresh air. Dark Souls 2 got like oh man, I think that one got the worst of like most people said it was okay or just eh. And I think in
I
today's
agree. I
standards,
was more like, eh.
I think in today's standards, that's considered bad. Some people still enjoyed playing it though, because the whole aspect of playing with friends.
Did that game get a 7? This game sucks.
Oh no, no, it's more like why did they give it a 7? It's more than a 7. It's better than all these games that came out. And it's these games aren't bad as what they are. I just feel like when it comes to games as a whole, you just gotta like say to yourself, am I willing to put hours into a game that does like the only real satisfaction is beating the game because it's difficult.
But if that's the case, why not just play some other games, ramp up the difficulty, and play?
Because there is that's the thing. Dark Souls is the yeah, I beat Dark Souls, all right, so I know what I'm talking about. But really, even hardcore Dark Souls 1 fans will tell you It's a really simple game. It's all about memorizing attack patterns. Like,
Being repetitious and grinding to get better gear. Once you get better gear, then you go about.
yeah,
But but people want to be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it my way. Okay, then you're just gonna die a couple
yeah. I love it
times.
when there's a guy I follow who sometimes he grinds off screen, like because they do a chant. They when the two best friends when Pat he would grind off screen and people get upset at him because he'd be grinding off screen and people want to see them grind and want to see their struggles, but it's just like he's grinding so he can get part past the
A certain
the
part
BS,
that
like
way you
get
don't have to
past the
walk
whole
away.
idea of just nobody wants to. He believes that they want to get to the good parts and they want people to see their reaction of the major plots rather than just grinding for souls. Cause
Like any Let's Player.
yeah, of course. Well, if you're streaming, it's a lot different. You can't really hide. You can grind off screen, and then the next time you stream, you can come back and you're a little bit leveled up. And I know that would be disheartening for some people, but I mean, it's really just I want you guys to experience this moment with me without having to sit there for 2 hours of me just kind of not talking and engaging with the crowd, but just grinding.
Yeah.
And that's what these games boil down to. It's just like you can say nobody ever really talks about their process of how they beat it, and some people do go for those runs where they kind of just go through it. They don't like they speed run it. But again, like
Ain't nothing wrong with a speed run if you know what
oh,
you're doing and it's fun.
sorry. What did you say? My headphone fell out.
I said nothing wrong. You're having fun.
Yeah, and I think Sekiro looks like my cup. Like when it comes to Bloodborne and Sekiro, I feel like Sekiro looks like the game that I feel like playing when it comes to the Dark Soul franchise. But I don't think people should play it as a Dark Souls or Bloodborne game
But the
because
thing is, Souls is not the only franchise that has a challenging difficulty. Because when someone tries to make that argument and say, well, Dark Souls is different because it just is hard. But then it's like say for instance, if someone would say, oh, you play Devil May Cry, oh, that ain't that hard. That's just a button masher. Okay, beat the game on Hell in Hell mode, then come back with me.
why should I do
I
that?
don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That and then it's like, but you play Dark Souls. I thought you liked to play hard games. No, 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 no. It's different.
No, yeah.
No, you're
Oh,
trying to
okay.
make the excuse just because you played a hard game that you stand above all the other gamers. But then when someone says, "Oh, you want a challenge? Well, take this challenge." No, but I'm still better because I completed this challenge. It's like, no, you because when it comes down to it, you've only played the Soul series. You haven't played the Devil May Cry series. You haven't played something like Metal Gear Rising on the highest difficulty. You haven't played Near Automata on all the difficulties. You and I know some people they haven't played Nio or how do you pronounce it?
Neo.
Neo. And
Yeah,
then we got a couple more games coming on the horizon that actually has a harder difficulty.
I remember
It's like,
people.
do I need to go into the harder difficulties of Bayonetta?
Yeah, I remember people were getting tilted when Neo came out because people were saying it was supposedly harder than Dark Souls. And when you threaten the
But
king,
I thought that's what y'all liked. Y'all like hard games.
I
So you get a hard game, but then you say it's harder than the hard game you beat. It,
like
that's
okay.
nuts.
And speaking from people that I like, there's a lot of people I've seen from the Dark Souls community, and most of the people that are chill and have good opinions will tell you that it's Dark Souls isn't really hard. The difficulty comes from trying to rush in and trying to beat the game like other games instead of just trying to
I
like
get more difficulty from a bullet hell shooter or playing Contra 4 for the DS.
no, of course, like there's difficulty there are harder games than Dark Souls. And saying that is almost taboo because we're believed to like Dark Souls is a hard game. But the thing is that Dark Souls being a
That ain't a
difficult
taboo
game,
because there were hard games that came before Dark Souls.
yeah, yeah. But what
That's
I'm
the one thing that does not process with certain fans.
yeah, but what I was saying, what I was about to say was, is that the difficulty being the selling point also kind of butchered Dark Souls 2. Most like there were some areas in the game that were difficult for being difficult, and Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls weren't marketed to be like these challenging super hard games. I think they were just built around that and just kind of made it challenging to show like to emphasize the I think they were trying to make that part of the tone of the series, trying to make it like these are very difficult games. It's but these are very challenging tasks lies ahead, but if you power through them, there's a sense of fulfillment.
You mean if you stop being stupid and actually think and play the game, you will win it.
Yeah,
You
and
don't say
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to play the game. Who would have thought? Who I what's this? You have to pay attention? Wow. This is so hard.
Like and like I said, like there's a. You heard of the man called DSP, Dark Side Phil? If he can be,
I can't tell if he's just pretending to be to induce the rage or he is rage.
I think it's a little bit of mixture of both. But I've heard from when he streams Dark Souls that he mostly got help from the chat. But I mean,
Yep.
like, yeah, but the idea is if he can beat hit, if you can, like, there's people that live by the motto: if DSP can beat it, then so can you. And
Yep.
I think this all comes down to that people who say it's too hard and they should add. I think this was gonna go. We're gonna segue into it eventually, but there are people that expect you to like if you can't beat Dark Souls or if you lost interest in it, it's because you're a casual scrub and you need to get good. On the other
Which
hand,
I
there
can flip that on them because that's the only game they played. Now, to the people who've actually stepped outside, who actually play more than just Dark Souls, I'm not addressing y'all. I'm addressing that one Dark Soul player that doesn't want to play anything else and tried to hold the fact that he's played this one game over everyone else. That's who I'm talking to.
yeah,
They
that
they know they know who I'm talking
and I feel like this whole difficulty thing that's been coming up for the past few days, like weeks even. I think it's only been just it's both sides coming at each other trying to prove that games don't need like could have an easy difficulty without ruining the experience. On the other hand, some people just need to learn to hone their skills, and if you don't want to take the time to learn it, then maybe that game is not for you. And
Or what if the person wanted to get into the game and maybe and keep up with me, maybe they don't have the time to grind like you. Maybe they just want to play for a small portion of time and make a significant amount of progress.
yeah,
It's not that they say that you're going to beat the game in a day or two. I'm just saying they want to play for a little bit and come back. They don't want to play, get one shotted by something they didn't see off a screen, and then that's 10 hours down the drain. Well, I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to work. I gotta take the kid to school. I gotta do something.
yeah,
And
and
then when you come back to it, it's like, do I really want to wait the time on this again?
yeah, and
So
I'll
that's the part that I understand when people say they want a difficulty in the game. And for the people who say now you have an argument to make, it's like, well, we haven't had the difficulty for a long time. Why are we getting it now? Yeah, there's an argument to be made. But please consider the following. Now going back to what I just said about difficulty and whatnot, it it would bring in more people into your community if you gave them the option. Now, at the end of the day, is the developer forcing you to play on the easier difficulty? Are they from the start? It's like, do you have to choose easy mode, or can you pick normal or veteran mode the way y'all love it? Like the game hates you, it kicks you in the face. It's always plotting to screw you over. Pure souls. Like you still have your difficulty the way you want it. Why is it wrong to get other people into the game you like, but at a slower pace? Like if they, because eventually they'll get to the veteran level. It's that Smash mentality. Because first a Smash player, they'll start out playing items and then they'll slowly start getting gooder. But as they get gooder, they get nudged by the community. Why are you using item scrubs? Get good. You get where I'm going?
No, yeah, I get with it, but I just want to play a little devil's advocate here. And for the thing is that for me with difficulties, there's so many developers that have different mentalities of what a difficulty setting is. Like there are like some games where the hard mode, like in a Bethesda game, a hard mode and survivor mode, some like in the older Fallout in New Vegas, what happens is that you were like a a glass cannon, but you at the same time the enemies were bullet sponges. And I don't think a game making enemies stronger and harder to, like more along the lines like a lot of health and you having only take a little damage, I don't think that's a good way of
But what if they were to
implementing.
use AI to do it though?
uh, how.
Like if you were to put it on an easier difficulty, the AI wouldn't be as aggressive. You would have more armor frames to deal with whatever the game throws at you if you didn't want to get in harm's way too long. But keep in mind, like I said, that is only for the casual person, the person who doesn't play the game every day. They just want to enjoy the game, enjoy the folklore, and then as time goes on, they'll eventually come back and crank up the difficulty. And then, okay, I can handle this. I'm gonna grow some hair on my chest. I'm gonna do the real gameplay challenge
Okay.
and play it how everyone else plays it.
Yes. And that would be the best outcome of that scenario. What probably might happen 60% of the time is most people would be like, all right, I beat it, and they probably will never touch it again. Um,
Yeah,
because the thing is that if they don't have time to play these games and they want to get a hold of the story and get a gist of what it is, they're not going to sit there and invest and then soak up the actual story, like take time to just appreciate it.
but not everyone wants to just watch YouTube videos and call it a day. Some
No, of
people
course
actually
not.
want to get into the game and have fun with it. Like, because when Devil May Cry 5 came out, I didn't look at anything. I just hopped in. I hopped in and I beat it. Then I beat it again. Then right now,
But
I
okay, so if do you remember? Do you know about God Hand, right?
yeah.
So God Hand has an easy mode, but most people wouldn't even consider that easy mode. Like, okay, imagine. I would say God Hand is a lot more difficult than most games out today because it has tank. It's just more of the mechanics in general, and it's a bit intimidating right off the bat. You gotta like you gotta almost unlearn everything you knew about hack and slash or beat 'em ups to learn this mechanic. And it has a system where the more you suck, the difficulty gets lowered down. But the more you do good, the difficulty goes up. But here's the thing: in the easy mode, the only thing happens is level 1 and 2. You only go up to those. You don't go up to level 3 or level die. However, level 1 and level 2 is still the same when you play it on normal and regular. I mean, easy and regular. I think in hard, I haven't actually beaten hard because, see, that's one of those games where I can't beat it on a very difficult setting. But at the same time,
Oh, you're a scrub. You're good. You're not a good
no,
gamer.
no,
Just complaining.
God
Uh,
Hand is
no.
a decent game and I liked it. It's
See,
fun and
you hear
satisfying
how
when you can
this
get some right
sounds?
combos. But what I'm saying is, that's what I meant earlier is that easy mode isn't going to get people to enjoy the game for what it is. And most people enjoy God Hand because of its mechanics and what you can do, because the story and the graphics aren't really all like that. The story is like it's cheesy and it's campy, but I mean there's a reason why I don't even think it's sold less than like 60,000 unit, more than 60,000 units, which is like nothing nowadays. But then you have games like Yakuza, which do have difficulty settings that have up to easy and legendary. But I feel like some people would say the to get that feeling of accomplishment is to play it on legendary. So
Speaking of legendary, you may remember Halo 2 on legendary.
honestly, no, I wasn't a first person shooter kind of guy until later on.
I wasn't
Also, I didn't have
either.
an
I had
Xbox.
a small handful. I would only play something akin to like classic shooters like Doom, Duke Nukem, Serious Sam, and Halo. I don't know what happened with 3. Was like, yeah, the multiplayer was good, but the story was just eh. And then
Yeah,
after that I just stopped. But going back to the whole Dark Souls fandom and the whole difficulty. So just because you have an option in the game that makes the game horrible. It loses what the game is, even though you don't have to do it. No one's forcing you to play on that difficult. It's like why is this a problem?
I think it mostly falls within there hasn't been a difficulty setting in any of these games, so why put one in now? That's mostly the mentality of it. And I'll be real with you that there's a I've seen a lot of arguments. Like there was one where it's like, yes, you're right. What do people gain out of it
I mean, because if
for
you could try to tell another person they suck and they need to get good, but you don't want to play another a game outside the game you're playing, that makes you full of it.
yeah,
I because it's easy for me to say, oh, you need to play this game, but then when someone else says like, all right, I played your game, I beat it, like it was interesting, but it's not as much as we over exaggerated to be. It's like, have you tried this game that can be hard or harder? But then the response is, I don't want to play that. That's for casuals. It's like Dark Souls is better, but that's the thing that throws me for a loop. Those type of fans to where they don't want to branch out. They just Dark Souls, Dark Souls, Dark Souls, Dark Souls. You give them another game, they just say no, I don't want to do it. But I want you to get into Dark Souls though. It's like, okay, if you don't want to, if you don't you won't you don't want to get into my game that I'm recommending you, why should I get into your game that you're trying so hard to get me to play?
yeah. Okay, so I think the thing I was trying to bring up was as far as Dark Souls, and I don't want to like some people. Yeah, you're right. It's but I feel like it's a two-sided coin of the same. It's a two-headed coin because I've seen a lot of people who want these more easier settings in the games, but at the same time, they there's games that don't like multiplayer games don't have difficulty settings, and everybody should.
Like another way that we can solve this issue, if you think these people are so much casual, how about you set up a standard to where the achievements are locked unless you play it on the Souls difficulty?
Oh yeah, no, there are some games where
But that's all solve the problem. That way you can't say that this person's not good. Nope, nope. In order to unlock this trophy, you need to play on the Souls difficulty. He got the trophy, so he actually played and got good. Well, can we have something like that so we can shut up that part of the fan base that just get good. You're not good. You're a casual.
yeah, but all right. So the get good phrase for me has always been hit or miss, mostly because, like I said, with difficulties they range from either I we made this difficulty impossible to beat and it's not fun to play even if you are the hardest hardcore. In fact, when you beat it, it's just kind of like, oh, okay. Like Bayonetta has a really easy mode where you can just push one button and it does the combos for you.
Yep.
That is probably what people want in these games, but I don't see how like because it's pretty much trying to take like there are some people that want enemies taken out altogether
Oh
and
no,
they
no,
want the
that
world
that's
because I would
no.
just like to sit and watch and explore the world and
That's no. You had to you had to have enemies in the game. That's a given.
but that's what somebody would who would argue against that would be on the same side that you were mentioning and they'd be like well didn't you say that the game should have an easier setting what if we want a like because
No, but what did I say? I said change the AI behaviors. I didn't say get rid of the monsters. I said change the AI behavior.
yeah of course I'm just and for me I don't like when I see people wanting to take what makes like taking out enemies in a dark. It's because I know it's about Dark Souls. It's never about any other game. But when they talk about they want to take out
That
enemies and
wouldn't work on whatever game you would play anyway, because if you were to play a game on easier mode, they're not just gonna remove all the monsters and then you just walk around fight the boss. It don't no, it don't work that way.
there's
Like if
some
you want a game like that, play Shadow of the Colossus. It's only
yeah of
one
course
enemy at a time, but
but they won't play
that's
that
it.
because it's boring and it has like there are so many games out
And
there
that's
that
why you
cater to the
don't do
whole
that. You still can have enemies in the game and have a fine balance without killing what the franchise is. It's just something for people to get in, and when they get comfortable, you nudge them to go harder until they get good. That's what you want, right? You want people to get good, and then you want to talk about the folklore of the story.
look all I'm saying is that Dark Souls kicks your ass, but at least it didn't do what Uncharted 1 did. Do you know what Uncharted 1 did?
I didn't play Uncharted.
Okay, well, get this. Uncharted, when you would die, the screen goes gray, the enemies talk mess to you, the player. Ha ha! Or, like, they would laugh at you, they mock you, and ooh, when I was younger, it would agitate me. Enemies would roll out of your bullets. There are videos showing, like, how the legendary difficulty on Uncharted is broken. Like, you are in cover and snipers still shoot you. Like like there's a reason why like
Well,
it's
if
not
that's a
about.
casual game, you just need to get good. You hear how stupid this is starting to sound?
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is that on the other hand, despite it, like there's an easy mode on the game too, but it
But do
doesn't.
you hear people ripping the game apart just because it has an
No, because it came out way before Dark Souls was even, I think.
Yep.
I I don't. I used to play normal. I would even play sometimes when I was younger. When I was younger, I'd even play on easy. I would let, but the thing is that I couldn't say anything about the game's difficulty because I kind of knew I was playing on an easier mode. Playing like I played Devil May Cry 3 on easy, and even then I had struggle with it because I wasn't like I didn't understand how the mechanics work, and I tried to play it like just a mindless game, and I think that's what people want. They want this mindless game where they don't have to worry about timing their attacks. They don't have to worry about guarding at the right moment, dodging at the right moment. They just want to press triangle and beat the boss and continue on. And for the story, I guess that makes sense, but I don't see where. I guess there's some. I guess there's some satisfaction in saying you beat it.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, I like that's like because most video game stories are very, bare bone. Like nobody remembers Devil May Cry 3 specifically for the story. The story is actually pretty good. 3 is actually like a good balance between story and gameplay. I mean, it's a little dated, but I mean, it's cheesy and it's like more like a B movie. But to me, most video game plots are equivalent to a B movie. Like there's so trying to beat it for the story it doesn't really like convince me. Like, oh, I just want to beat it for the story. Eh,
Some people do.
I know, like Nier and Bayonetta and all these like Final Fantasy games and everything. People want to beat it and they want to experience that thing that they experienced.
Yep.
But it even games that are highly praised that like Undertale is one of the most popular games right now and it doesn't have a difficulty setting.
Mm,
It's but
let's just say
nobody ever
I
talks about because
wouldn't.
it's not even a difficult game to begin with. It only gets hard near the very end, but it's because it it treats you with respect that you pretty much kind of know what you're doing, and even people casual players kind of can get through Undertale. Like it's not a hard game because it's a very tamed bullet hell compared to like Toho.
Wait. Are you trying to say Toho is?
I'm saying compared to Undertale compared to Toho. Are you saying Undertale is harder than Toho? I'm not saying Toho's hard because some people
No,
better
I'm
vets
not
out there will
saying
probably.
Tohos are hard.
But I'm saying when it comes to most bullet hells, Undertale is probably the easiest bullet hell of the current gen.
Uh, okay.
Yeah, it's there. There's a lot of games out there that are easy for people. There are a lot of games that don't take much of your time, and that's all it really boils down to is like people want to play these like really hardcore. Like I haven't told. I've lost count of how many games I missed out on because of the difficulty. But there are some
But
games that.
speaking of their difficulty, let's cover this. So another thing that would that would irritate me from time to time is the whole thing of if you played a hard game that isn't necessarily Dark Souls, but it's in another genre, all of a sudden this game is the Dark Souls of the genre.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate those. Those are ooh, because what it does is it diminishes the game, and it just reduces it to like And what it does is that it awakens those Dark Souls fans the specific ones you don't like to come in and hate the game. It's like no
Yeah,
way this game is as hard as Dark Souls. And it's just like we know it's not. They're trying to like Crash Bandicoot was the Dark Souls of the PlayStation 1 era. Ooh, that one was nasty. It's like
yeah.
Crash Bandicoot. Are you like some of these games that were hard in the back in the
It's
heyday,
like
like classic games?
Contra was the Dark Souls of the 2D era.
These games pushed units. Be damned about the difficulty. There was no easy mode in Crash 1. And Crash 1 is actually not really the greatest. Crash 2 is probably the most perfect Crash experience. And its difficulty is out there, man.
When you
It's
try to
not
100% it.
when you yeah, but even trying to
Yeah.
get through it, like I'm talking about me when I was younger and had no memory card. That was the kind of difficulty
Ooh.
I had to run through.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, those were dark times when we it's like bad. We're just aging ourselves even more and more by because for the kids who are listening, we didn't have this thing called auto saving like y'all had. We just had to play it, and if we were fortunate enough to have a memory card, then we'd be able to save. But
yeah,
there were some who didn't have memory cards, and could you imagine how bad that was if you were back
I
in
can't
what you
I don't
call
need
it,
to imagine it. I experienced that
or
firsthand.
when you played Final Fantasy VII.
No memory card, man. It was the worst. And
Well, any of the Final Fantasy games without a memory card, or
and the thing
Resident
is,
Evil with no memory card.
you can tell who's been playing games for a long time. And I'm not trying to make this like this like a contest, but understand that I am more for the I don't care about if there's a difficulty in it or not, but if there is no difficulty and it's a hard game from the beginning, just like understand that it's not a big deal. It's not like there's way like if the game has autosave, then you're good. Some like Monster Hunter doesn't have autosave, and it's not even that hard of a game. But if you forget to save, you'll lose a lot of progress. And people would claim that's offensive and they should have an autosave. And it's just like most people would just say, I mean, reading comprehension.
You know what? People just need to play Dark Souls without saving.
Yeah,
Show how good a gamer.
but you see, Dark Souls autosave so that way you can't just save scum it by turning off the console and
Wait,
restarting.
wait. It saves.
Yeah, it
Wait a minute.
autosaves.
How can you even say it's hard when it constantly auto saves? Like it doesn't get like it's not the games of yesteryear to where if you died, you started all the way back over.
The games are honestly for me. Dark Souls games are hard when you have a bunch of souls and you haven't cashed them in yet, and you're far from a bonfire. That's where the difficulty comes in. Oh, also if you haven't cleared out the enemies, but you continued forward anyway, and you run into a boss room. The best way to do it is
Or
just
you get thrown off of a bridge.
yeah. And if you die, the only and again that progress you can still go back and get those souls, but the progress it feels wasted if you die before you get to your souls. That's where the difficulty really comes into play is managing your soul count and cashing them in. But if you're like a smart person and just cashes them in early when you can level up and do it, it may take a long time, but I mean, it's either
But
that.
that's boring. They're not playing the game right.
Yeah, well, no, but there's no right way to play it. I mean, people like Save Scum and Bayonetta to get platinum medals. Somebody tweeted to Kamiya, "Was that a bad thing if I save Scum?" He's like, "No, no." Like that's the thing. These games that with difficulties, whether they have them or not, it's not about how hard or easy they are. It's just a matter of how you play them. If you don't enjoy it, don't force yourself to enjoy it. You're only hurting yourself. Like I don't understand why people don't understand that if they don't enjoy the game because of the difficulty and this sucks, it needs an easy mode. Like that's the thing. People probably are misinterpreting what you're saying. Like I want an easy mode, therefore I want everything catered to me, but really it's just I don't like the way the game is handled. I really wish there was a way for me to play this game without tearing my hair out and stressing me out. And it's just like, well, I mean, don't
I
play
mean,
games
the
that stress you
challenge
out.
is not. Oh, I cut off. I think I
Yeah.
cut off. It's like the challenge is not minded. It's just some people. Yes, they can play hard games, but sometimes they just don't have that time to be grinding hours just to be comfortable enough just to roll around. Sometimes they just want to play, take the risk, and then if it doesn't go right, it's like, well, that's 10 plus hours down the drain. Got to do it again.
But I mean,
Don't
I
you complain about it because it's your fault for not being good. But the thing is, not every gamer is the same.
of course, but understand that we're just because you don't have time doesn't mean that like I barely have time to play games that I want to play, and that's coming from somebody who can play hard games. There's a lot of roguelike games out there who where they scrub your progress if you die. Like there's a game called
Yep.
Nuclear Throne. It only has a few stages, but if you die, you go straight to the beginning. None of you, and some games are
No
roguelite.
autosave.
They're roguelite where it keeps your progress, like Rogue Legacy. That one was pretty fun because it was like a mixture of Metroidvania with roguelike elements. And every time you die, you become the ancestor. I mean, the descendant of your ancestor, and there's different classes to pick, and they have different stats, and they can do different abilities, and you kind of just use that to explore the dungeon. And even after you beat it, there's a harder mode afterwards. But there's so many games out there that have decent stories that don't require like Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3. Those games don't really take a lot of hours to beat if you try to just ham through it. You can beat them on easy mode, but are you really getting anything for just beating it? Like some of those games,
Mm,
you gotta like once you beat them, die.
the thing about Kingdom Hearts is you can just plow through. Difficulty doesn't come in until you start to do
Until the
it.
story actually makes progress, like the main story. I just hit my
So,
desk.
so go. I referring to Kingdom Hearts. If you really wanted to make Kingdom Hearts a difficult game, then it's as simple as putting it on proud mode and do a level 1 run, and there you go. There's your challenge. Because I can guarantee you everything is gonna either smack you with an anvil or you're gonna get one shot.
Yeah. Look,
Or you
I
can play with no abilities and try to give yourself a challenge.
keep these games difficult. I need these icky girls away from my game because that's all it really boils down to.
Girls
Okay,
play video games? You don't say. I didn't know.
okay, because like, look, if if you really like the game, like you said, you'll put your effort into making it difficult. Like my wife just finished beating Nino Kuni, but she played it on hard mode. I think expert, and
Mm,
she did that, and she has like about I don't know over 80 hours to like almost 100 hours in that game. She really likes this game, and it's a game that you would like. I would think you would think she'd play an easy mode, but no, she tested herself and made it hard. And it's funny because games that I play, she says to herself, "Oh, I don't think I could play those games." Same thing like Dark Souls, like the thing you mentioned. I don't think I could play that game because it looks intimidating. And it's just like you just beat this game on a difficulty mode. And let me tell you something. Nino Kuni on hard and expert is BS. There are enemies
but
that
is she
once
gonna look down on you?
Of course not.
for not playing her game on the hardest difficulty.
She won't look down on me because she knows the games I play are way harder than that. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying like she wouldn't play Devil May Cry 4 on Dante Must Die because she knows that like. But that's the thing. I don't play. I haven't played Tales of on an X on Nightmare mode or whatever the hardest difficulty is, but they can.
Nightmare Mania.
They play it on. They usually play it on hard. They play Kingdom Hearts on proud and standard. Like they play
Same.
the games they like. They will play on harder difficulties. But understand that I do not like to play games on easy mode because I like to get past the story as fast as possible. Yeah, fine, whatever. I did that with Kingdom Hearts 3. But
Uh-oh. You're not a hardcore gamer. You played on easy mode. You're a filthy casual.
yeah, of course, I played like but first of all, Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't really a hardcore game even if you put it on proud and like critical mode. Kingdom Hearts as a series isn't a hard game. I
No, but the fact that you put it on easy, you're a pleb.
Yeah, of course I
You're
am.
phony.
I'm a pleb for the sake of beating the game cuz
And
I
that
had
that's the mentality I keep referencing that back to where it's not all right for people to play their game of choice on difficulty.
yeah,
Everyone else has to appease to your standard of gaming.
but here's the thing. Even though I beat Kingdom Hearts on standard mode, not once did I say, "Ah, this game was a little too easy," or "Oh, that didn't really satisfy my like, the gameplay was just kind of meh." Cuz honestly, if I played it on a harder difficulty, cuz it wasn't my copy. I don't own Kingdom Hearts 3. But if I did, I'd be putting a lot more hours into it. Well, actually that's a lie because I have so many other games. The only like real game I really put effort into is Yakuza 0 and trying to 100% that one. I played Nier Automata on the standard mode like because hard mode was just like you die in one
Nier
hit.
can get stupid on higher difficulties.
Exactly. And it's like to me it's just like all right, that's BS. Like dying on I can understand like you're almost dead, but like getting like it's literally you get hit once you die, and I'm like nah,
Yep.
like
Still, it was fun though. It's just that nightmare of, oh yeah, you can't aim. You just have to hit and hope you hit something. If you don't hit it, they'll bitch slap you and you'll die.
yeah.
That was like, yep.
See, for me, there are some games that I don't care what difficulty I play it on, or there are games that don't have a difficulty and I just play it. However, there are some games where you don't get that like sense of like that. You don't get that feeling. It's hard to explain. It's a gut feeling when you accomplish beating it. Like there is something said about beating a Ninja Gaiden game on the hardest difficulty. I have yet to master that, but Ninja Gaiden to me is sacred. Like that's what makes Ninja Gaiden special to me. Is that one day I will beat all of the games on the highest difficulty, and I will say to myself, I love this series. But I don't think people that are trying to change the status quo of Dark Souls' difficulty really care about the game. Because it seems to me that they're like the kids. It's like I never played Halo, and it's just like I would want to, but if I were to say I think Microsoft should go out of their way to make the game available for PlayStation or PC.
Huh? It's like some people don't want to get consoles.
The thing is that it's there's exclusives for reasons, and
You gotta have them to sell units.
but the thing is that it's specifically, and I know that was a topic I wanted to bring up about the Epic Store having certain games exclusive to their store, and even though they're allowed
Yeah.
to do that for me personally, I just believe that I don't trust.
That's a headache.
Yeah, I don't trust Epic
Cause how
enough
many different platforms? I already stated in previous episodes, but we have too many storefronts that we got to go through.
on PC market alone.
I'm not trying to say we need a monopoly, but we do need like a small handful of stores, not a whole. It's like how many stores do we even have at this point? Because it feels as though every time I turn around, there's a new
There's
storefront opening
Origin,
up.
there's Epic, there's Uplay, there's
Good old
Steam.
games.
You can even get games on Discord now. And what I'm saying is that there's a lot of games that aren't catered to you, that are not meant for you.
I
No
mean, if
matter
we
how
had
much you
like
try to get
three
into it,
storefronts or four storefront fronts, that'd be fine. Well, four would be pushing it, but if it was like just three places that you can go to for games on the PC, it'd be all right.
yeah,
But
and for some people that are asking for these difficulties, I got a question for you. When has a company that has catered to a specific audience, when it opens up to the general masses, has it been a complete success?
when,
Yeah,
wait,
when
wait, what?
so there's a lot of there's been the games back then. It was always like this thing that like, oh, they should add in a multiplayer or crafting system. Like back in the day when Minecraft and Call of Duty were famous, almost every game had to have a multiplayer game setting, game mode, or it had to have survival crafting elements in it. And it's just like we want to listen to an audience that doesn't like our games, but we want to like you said earlier, they want to rake in a wide massive audience to get more people into the game. And I'm gonna tell you
But
right,
do the people requesting an easy difficulty hate Dark Souls though?
I think they're indifferent to it, and I don't really think it'll change their mind once they play it.
So there won't be an individual that actually enjoys it for what it is. They just part of the conversation.
I
Is
mean,
that where we're going?
I'm like say it like this: if they really want to get into it, why haven't they tried? What's stopping them other than if they actually have a disability? Is it
Mm,
because like it never had a difficulty setting, so because like why haven't they just gotten to try it? Maybe they have tried it and they can't get past it. That's mostly
or
my
maybe
problem.
they tried it, but they can't make as much progress.
And is that the developer's fault?
Mm,
Because they want
shoot,
the
that
developers to add an easy mode. They want to make it more accessible to a specific audience, which it's always labels usually the disabled or people who are unable to play games because of something like time constraints. I understand. I would love to play a game and sit down and play like I used to, but like reality sets in and it hits hard. There are so many games I have on my Steam page that I yet to play. I have a backlog of games. Yeah, I understand. I want to get to those games as fast as possible, but if I really want to play a game, if I like Devil May Cry, I just play it. Like
yep.
I understand that there are people that want to play these games, but speaking as a kid who had no memory card, who didn't get who had to make very specific choices on what his game was because he had no actual income of his own, so any game he bought, he had to deal with. I've missed
Ye-
out on games that everybody was talking about because I went with my dumb child brain. I bought Spy Kids 3D instead of buying a Pokemon game. But Pokemon is easy in of itself.
Yep.
there are games out there for people who don't want to play hard games. Why does you have to go out of your way to make it seem like you wanted to play these games like Dark Souls, Neo, Bloodborne, but because the difficulty spikes are in it, you don't want to. It just sounds like to me that you don't want to play these games, and even if they did add that difficulty, you would just say, "Ah, it's just more of like a hey, we did something. We made a difference." And then they never pick up the game. They just kind of like, well, move on to the next thing to complain about. I get that there's a lot of bad eggs in video game communities, but that just comes with people in general. You go to the D&D session, there's probably going to be that one guy who takes it way too seriously and gets mad at everybody that's having fun because they're not playing the game the way it's supposed to be intended to.
Yeah, and that comes back to my irk to where if you don't want to play Dark Souls, actually a game, why pester people saying just pretty much trying to say, well, they don't play my game, so they're casuals.
Of course. And that just comes with elitism in general. And elitism is everywhere. There are people out there who are like, oh, because I don't play Dark Souls, I'm better than those, neckbeards who sit in their basement all day playing these games and mastering them. I have a lot going on in my life. I'm accomplished in things, so why should I, I want to play. And then they want to get into the hobby, and it's like they're not willing to put in the hours for it. It's no different from somebody trying to join trying to be a famous singer
But what
or
that
just
make my question is this: if the person was playing on the lower Dark Souls, but they put in just as much time as a veteran player who's been accustomed to the harder get difficulties, would he still be considered trash? Like not a good player who has to
are
adhere
you saying
to.
he makes the same amount of progress, or he just puts in the hours but he hasn't gone anywhere?
No, he makes the same amount of progress, but at the same time he puts in the hours too. Does that still make him less than the community that they want more people to get into?
No, I'm pretty sure they don't really would care. I think if he puts in the same amount of hours and he does it, it's more along the lines of like
But it's on a lower difficulty.
a
It
lower
would that
difficulty. Well, if he brags about it,
yeah, okay.
like if he says like, "Huh, this is the game that everyone like says was hard." It's like,
Then you can just easily say, okay, man up and put it instead difficult. Then he won't be able to say that.
yeah, but I
But this
mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it's like they're gonna find things to like put up a defense. Like if like what you said earlier, when somebody says, "Oh, it's not as hard as Dark Souls," and it's just like, "Well, why don't you play Kingdom Hearts on critical mode and come back?" It's like, "Well, I don't feel like playing those games." It's like, well, then you don't know how hard it is. Like if because somebody who's played both games could, it's there's somebody a guru out there who's played all the video games in the world can tell you which game is the hardest, and that obviously goes to Bubsy 3D for the PlayStation One.
mm,
Look, to me,
wow. Just why?
a hard video game usually comes around to how like if the controls are not necessarily clunky, but if the controls do not work, if there's delays, there are some games that are out there that I played that have delays, input delays, specific, and they're not even for for fighting games. I'm talking about like you move the analog stick to the left and the character doesn't move until a few frames later. I hate those kind of games, and that was the early PS3 era, early Xbox era. There are some games out there where the characters do not react the moment you press the button. And that difficulty comes from controller, from developers not realizing, like the coders just not realizing momentum and just kind of screwing it up.
I think I just came up with an idea, but then again, that no, I was just thinking back to Resident Evil, where do you remember how they had the regular mode and then they had the range mode?
Yeah,
They could incorporate something like that. Make it a little bit more worthwhile. I mean, you bust your ass off, and then it's like, here's an easy difficulty. Wreck they shit.
yeah, of course. But I think it all boils down to if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And I don't think From Software has the resources to just make difficulty modes out of the blue, or that it's not really crossed. Maybe people have brought it up, but I don't think it crossed their minds because who knows the development cycle that goes through in From Software's headquarters, because Lord knows a lot of their games are very jank. Like From Software has always been jank. Their controls have never been like precise as something like a Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. But even Devil
Do
May
I need to
Cry,
remind you the first Tenchu game on the PlayStation 1?
I have Tenchu Stealth Assassins on the PS1, and oh my gosh, the draw distance. There's so much things that makes it like unironically difficult because of technical issues. But in a
But I
way,
will say that music was on point though.
yes, the music in that game is good. It's god tier. I'm telling you. They even reused it for certain sequels. But Tenchu and Sekiro, Bloodborne, Souls, even Armored Core, those games have a lot of technicality to them that you can't really like narrow it down to why they do it like that. I like Dark. I don't think there's a lot of teams out there, and I think when it comes down to it, Dark Souls 2 is almost what they could have like would have been probably the one to be have the difficulty setting on it. It just feels like they were this close to putting it in there. But Dark Souls is pretty much just taboo to talk about with difficulty because on
No,
one
it's
hand,
not.
no, I'm not. I mean, I'm not saying it like we shouldn't. I'm just saying it's kind of like, oh, you shouldn't like. But for me, I'll put it like this: would the NFL make rules to make anybody with a disability able to join the NFL?
Mm, well, when it comes down to that, that's more like an event thing, like maybe like a Make a Wish Foundation or something
No,
like that.
of course,
But
but
they're not gonna be there for
that's so.
a whole entire season.
Of course, no, but even then, no, it wouldn't even be for probably be just for like a few minutes of a game because their body limitations wouldn't let them even if they wanted to. Like I'm talking about like there are so many people that cannot do what they want to do because of the limitations, but there are people out there at the same time who go past their limits to do that. There's been that thing where the disabled person beats one of Sekiro's hardest bosses. There have been people who cannot use their hands right that play fighting games, which fighting games have a difficulty curve in the sense of trying to beat the opponent rather than because like the easy mode comes in if the A can you beat the AI. And you know what's funny?
Yep.
I heard people like saying like criticizing Street Fighter Fives how easy it was. Like even a child can beat the said story
Oh,
mode.
that was
But
funny.
here's the thing. So if a game so they can and that was coming from people, so it's just like, well, which is it? There's too many people, there's too many factions that come in. Like is Street cuz I'm pretty sure that little kid would get bodied by any like top player or even just a general player. The A but fighting games the satisfaction doesn't come from beating the AI or the bosses. I mean, the older games a little bit because there was no such thing as playing online multiplayer or even
Nah,
just
nah, nah.
beating your
When you played Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then Akuma came out of nowhere, and you won against him.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like
Mm,
that's a different kind of satisfaction. But in newer games where almost everybody's kind of like in fighting games, fighters need to almost be already unlocked because people don't like the idea of having to unlock characters or having to purchase them, which is
Yep.
a whole
Looking
different
at
thing.
you, Street Fighter X Tekken.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Dark Souls. I think if people were really complaining about the difficulty in Dark Souls, whether and or bragging about it, I really just one for the people who think that Dark Souls is the hardest game and if you can't beat it, oh casual like play more games. Even Dark Souls fans will tell them to play more games because that's not healthy to just play one game. It's fun, like it's okay. Like if you have a game you go to almost every so often and just go back to beat it, eats instantly, and like that. Because there are some people that could beat Dark Devil May Cry 1 without even taking any damage.
Yep.
So so that's the thing. People who can beat games, whether or not the difficulty is easy or hard, yeah, people will find their own ways to make the challenge more intense. But for people who just want to beat it for the story, I really suggest just playing other games that actually emphasize on the story. You know what I'm saying? Like stop trying to go to like Sekiro, Bloodborne, and all these games where the story mostly comes from interacting with the world. Because if you want a game that focuses more on the story, play games that are heavily focused on stories that have difficulty settings that even say, give me a story setting. Because Dark Souls is not going to give you that, no matter how much people complain and whine about it. And as for Dark Souls fans, let people be casuals, but casuals learn that if you're not willing to put in the hours to emerge from that casual like hell, don't say anything. Don't bother arguing with them because you're going to get the same argument, the get good argument. And whether or not you hate it or not, in reality, it boils down to like, well, if you can't beat the game, try to figure out, look up a guide or something. Nowadays, it's so easy to look up things for games. People have like found out like if
Although I do feel stupid about Sekiro, I don't know how I was able to do it, but I was able to beat the game without looking at the map. And then when I figured out the game had a map, I was like, this game had a map. I feel stupid.
and the thing is that especially with let's players, and I think this will probably like hit with some people. There are people that are let's players who complain about a game's difficulty, being too hard and not telling them what to do. Then they look up a guide, but then they play an easy game, and they're like, "Man, this game's way too easy." And it's just like those people probably tick me off even more because they're in the
That's
middle.
what I'm saying.
Huh?
No, that's what I'm saying. Some people do that.
Like, what the heck? This game didn't tell me what to do. And it's like, it did tell you, you just skip the tutorial because you think tutorials are stupid, but at the same time, you don't like it when the game doesn't tell you what to do. Like, that's what I'm saying. There's too many factors to just boil it all down to we should add a difficulty mode or keep it the same. There's too many things. Too many people that say a game is too easy or say a game's too hard. Like there are people that are like, man, Wind Waker, like I don't, or this game is easy. I don't know why people complain about it being hard. And it's just like they play like, or people there's a game from a franchise, long running franchise, and they play it and they try to play the older one, and they're mad because the game is hard and it doesn't hold your hand. A la old Metroid games.
Or like Echo the Dolphin, where you just go.
Like,
Memories.
and there are games that actually do not have. There are old school games that when you beat it,
Oh, speaking of old school games, did you ever beat Aladdin for the NES?
I didn't have an NES.
Ah, so you may have missed that beat down then.
Are you talking about Aladdin for like the Disney movie Aladdin?
Yeah, the
Oh, you're
video
talking about the
game.
SNES one, the one developed by Capcom, right?
Yep,
Yeah, that's the SNES one. But
yep.
yeah, I didn't have an SNES. I got a PlayStation One. Cause even though I know a lot about older games and played a bunch of them, it's mostly because either they were at arcades or I went to other people's houses. But in my household, there was only the home PC and the PlayStation 1. And the PC was where I was able to play Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Mm, fair enough.
But the hardest game I played when I was younger was Crash 1.
Let's see. I guess the hardest game I played when I was younger had to be Contra Hard Corps
Yeah.
for the Genesis.
No, yeah. Have you ever played that new Contra that was made by like Arc Systems?
Uh, Uprising. I think that's what you're
I
talking
think
about.
so. It was either Uprising or Hardcore. It was like something Ops or something. But I think yeah, I think it was Contra Uprising. It was on the current. It was on Xbox 360 and PS3.
Yeah, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, but like
I mean,
NES.
I still say Contra 4 DS is by far the hardest Contra game I've ever played because, whew, what they expect you to do in that game is just like, it's not a headache, but that game really throws everything at the sink at you on a 2D plane.
Yeah, look, most of the games I play, for me, especially when I was younger, I would throw fits. But and sometimes I would blame it on the game, but sometimes I'd be like, I just get mad that I just can't beat it. Regardless of what it was, I got back down and tried to beat it.
Yep.
And I think people, and again, I know if you don't have the time, but I doubt video games. If you don't have the time to put hours into a specific game, I really think you should just consider probably not playing games because yeah, like if you got to make time for your hobby, you can't be those people that's just like I never learned how to draw because I never had enough time. And it's just like, well, that's not true for everybody because my wife knows how to draw a lot better than I do, but she put hours into it and she still had time to play games. And so it's not a,
But then that's just insinuating that that person should be the same as everyone else, but not everyone has the same taste. Not everyone can play out of the same speed.
and I
Now,
understand
are
that.
there people who just who just don't care? They just want to look at the story, okay, but they're not gonna get no game to where you're not gonna get a Souls game to where there's no enemies in the game but the boss. It's not gonna be like one button. That's never gonna happen.
And isn't it always a
I
surprise that they want to get into games? They say they want to get into these games, but these things, and it's just like there's so many other games who need a bigger community, who the games that need awareness because of how good they are, that are being slept on because people like those people, the same people that claim that there's a lot of gatekeeping, want to get into these games that have some crazy amount of gatekeeping that I've always seen, but they won't go into games that are almost perfect for them because of reasons. Like I got Bloodborne because it was cheap on sale. I played a little bit of Dark Souls 1 and I kind of put it down and never went back to it. I played a little bit of Dark Souls 2. Again, put it down and never went back to it. For
You didn't
me,
beat the game, you casual.
yeah, no, of course. I just don't like the pacing of the games. I have more of like I'm playing Devil May Cry for God's sakes. I'm more of a fast-paced action dude who's like I like Bayonetta. I will go through those games. I will get my ass kicked by those games because I need that. I like that kind of flow motion of the game. Just like when you do, like when you do a combo just right, and in Order Ninja Gaiden, If you charge up triangle hard enough and you start doing all those slashes, you do an Izuna drop on enemies, switching up weapons. I like those kind of
Yeah.
games a lot more than Dark Souls. Dark Souls is way too slow for me. I'm not saying it's easier. I'm just saying the pacing, the way the characters move, even Blood. Like people say, Bloodborne is fast, but Dark Souls fans like it's the fastest game. Dark is Bloodborne, but Bloodborne compared to something like the Bayonetta or DMC is so slow.
So slow.
Like I kind of wish it would play like a Bayonetta or DMC. I want to launch enemies in the air and do combos because I mean it is satisfying playing it, but like
Wouldn't that be nice to have legendary hold on 5? Ooh. Oh, that'd be so much fun.
and and the guy I follow, Pat, he has a girlfriend named Peach or whatever. She did a stream of Bloodborne, and she beat one of the like a boss that he had difficulty beating, like on the first try. So it's not about how good you are at the game. It's just about if some you can cheese the game. She kind of just went in ham and just attacked the enemy and killed it before it actually got into its like major forms.
Mm.
Sometimes it really is just like hack into it and hope for the best. Like I don't play Devil May Cry like professionals do. Like I've seen the videos of Devil May Cry 4 gameplay where they actually have their controller on the screen to show you what they're doing. And even Devil May Cry shows you what buttons you're pressing when you're training.
Got a trick sword.
Yeah, but like,
Or fastballs like got a trick sword. It's like
have you seen?
is
Have
the
you?
man or whoever's having like a professional session of Devil May Cry 4, or are they having a that's how bad it sounds.
Have you
Which I'm,
seen
I'm glad they did that in 5.
when the Devil May Cry 4? There's a video of a guy doing some sick combos, but he's doing it on a keyboard and mouse, and he actually has his
Yeah.
keyboard on screen. That guy is on a whole is on like in the year 3000. It's like people
Yeah,
don't
his
want.
fingers are gonna need ice after that.
There's so many games out there that are way more difficult than Dark Souls, but people want an easy mode in Dark Souls because they want to be, it's no, it's like trying to fit in with a crowd that they don't want to fit in with because I hate this community because they're a bunch of gatekeepers and a bunch of man babies. But yeah, I still want to be part of this community and act like I got credentials.
Mm.
I mean, that's how I see it for people who want to get into these games, but yet hate how the way these games are presented towards them.
I'm, yeah, I guess from my point of view, I'm just tired of the double standard elitism of the community.
Yeah,
Where
of
it's like,
course. Like I don't like. It's like I don't like specific like things in the melee community. I think they're the elitism in that one, where they think that their game really is just like they without Evo. I mean, without them, Evo is nothing. And I still see salty comments from time to time, just from random places from them. But you know, I still like. Would I go back to melee? Maybe. I doubt it because Ultimate's taking up more of my time. But I never actually played melee on a professional, like, no items and stuff. I just always played it how it was because, I mean, that's how I grew up playing it. But I don't try to get into that community and try to join in tournaments and try to be like, oh, why do like, just don't get into if you can't get into that, don't try to. You're only hurting yourself. I understand, like I can understand that you really do want to get into it, but you're just not good enough. But you're only hurting. Like that's another thing. When you downplay yourself, you're only the only one losing in that argument is you. Like you're saying, oh, I can't beat it. Well, it's just like, why do you have no confidence in yourself? I mean, I understand that maybe that people can't break that like mold, like they have issues with
Some
their.
people can break the mold. takes.
You cut off a little bit.
Now it says some people can break the mold. It just takes longer than others.
Yeah, but there are people that want to speed like they want
Because I
things.
could tell you when I was younger, I didn't have the skills that I have now. Because if I was younger, I could tell you I wouldn't even be able to play Dark Souls or Sekiro or anything like that.
I'd
I
get
had
mad
that
at it.
one,
I'd throw the controller at the TV. But it's
but
just,
the whole thing is you're not gonna get your skill in one day.
and that's what these people, and I feel like that's what a lot of
But
these people
that's
want.
what some of the Dark Souls fans expect out of some people or some new people that's looking in. They expect you to be a god day one. That's not gonna happen.
And a
I
good,
mean, you're not gonna platinum the game in 15 minutes. Like no one can get that good.
yeah, of course. But again, that comes back from just the wrong side of the community because I doubt like good community people would be like, "Hey man, welcome. Hey, if you have any problems with the game, here's some guides to help you out." I just wish people would take more of that like as a like, "Hey, welcome to this community." Like, not every game is out there to kill you. And if if you want to tackle those games, I mean, it's like people are like, why go into a haunted house if you hate scary things? Cuz your friends went in? I mean, that just feels like you're getting into peer pressure. This is some high school like shenanigans that people get into with these games. It's just like
Yep.
if you don't like if you hate this community that they're gatekeeping and you don't understand why they don't just let people play the game. It's just like them. Why do you continue to try to get into that community? I don't think that community's for you. Well, I want to enjoy the games, and I was just like, well, then play them. Shit, nobody cares how you beat them. Nobody cares if you download some mod for Dark Souls 1 to beat the game with unlimited cheats. I doubt there's anything like that, but if there was, nobody's going to know if you did. If you beat it and just did it for the story, like no one's going to know unless you actually talk to them, and really that's your own fault if you get into an argument or like a thing where somebody starts like, "Oh, what do you mean you beat it on easy mode?" It's like yeah, beat it on easy mode. Like I just admitted I beat Kingdom Hearts 3 on standard mode, and I'm pretty sure there'd be some people that don't like me for that. But it's just like whatever. Honestly, it wouldn't like I could have just said I beat Kingdom Hearts 3 and I didn't have a problem with it, and nobody would have known I have beaten it on proud or standard.
Right.
You could beat like nobody's stopping you from beating these games by cheating. I don't know what's the argument here. What like the easy mode thing, all it really comes down to is we want the games to be easier. And if they when it's just like, well, these games weren't meant to be easy. Well, it should just be an option. It's like who is it affecting if it's easy? And it's like nobody. But there is none. If there was a multi-universe somewhere in the universe, there's an easy mode Dark Souls, easy mode in Dark Souls, but you're not in that
Or
universe.
there could just be a mod for Easy Vote 2.
There could be, and no, and why not make one? They don't want to make one. The developers don't want to make one. Nobody wants to make one, and it's just like, well, I guess we're stuck here. Just deal with the chips that you've dealt with. Like, I don't complain about I can't play every single Tales of game. I want to get into the series, and I don't know which one to start. And I want to start with Destiny, and I'm trying to get it emulated. And I have Abyss and Legendia, and I have Zestiria. I bought Zestiria. I didn't even know why I bought Zestiria. I shouldn't have bought it. I bought it at full price too. I should have waited for a sale, but I didn't. And I bought it, and I haven't even touched it. I mean, I touched it a little bit. I played, dabbled into it, but I never actually gotten far into the Tales of games, with the exception of like Gracie's and Abyss.
Ah, man, Gracious was so.
I see. I liked Gracie's, and I think the difficulty in that one was pretty decent. It's a lot different from Vesparia and Cysteria and all the other ones, but I don't know. I liked it. I didn't realize how.
Yep.
I guess it's been a while, but ever since I actually watched, I was watching my wife and her sister play it, and I realized that game's on turbo mode or something because the speed of the game in battle is amazing.
Well, it's more keen to the play styles of whoever plays the game. Because some people could be more defensive,
No, I meant just the game speed.
aggressive.
Like I meant like this frame rate is like it looks like it's uncapped.
Yeah.
Like it looks like it'd be running at 120. And this was a PS3 game around like 2012. I mean, games were still struggling to get 60 frames on PS3 and Xbox 360 around that time.
Uh, we're rarely making it today.
Yep.
Barely.
Yep.
Unless your game is not properly optimized, then it's like,
Yeah, and that's a whole different other thing. Poor optimization is a real complaint. A difficulty setting could have been done. Yes, I know they could have done it. They probably did have the manpower to do it. But they didn't do it. That's it.
you,
They, like oh, what do you oh they should are you going to pay for it? Are you going to pay for the easy mode? You're going to pay for the man hours to takes to code it in? No? I know that
put in
sounds
that
I know that sounds
microtransaction.
I know that sounds petty, but I mean, let's be real here. There is no easy mode, but they want one. There is none. They're not going to make one. And yet they continue to bitch and moan about not having easy mode because people who have no time or have disabilities or can't have anxiety, they have all these excuses. And it's just like, well, then I don't think you should play those kind of games. Like, it's not I'm not telling you not to play it because you suck. I'm just saying you're giving me all these reasons why there should be an easy mode, and to me all I'm hearing is I don't want to play these games because they're not made the way I want to play them. And I was like, well, I don't think these games are made for you. I think they're made for an audience, and that audience seems to disagree with you because the sales say otherwise. And I know that sounds petty, like I'm you bringing up sales, but it's kind of true. It's like somebody would have like back in the day,
Wait,
if you
wait.
said,
Sales don't always make the game because I know you remember what happened with Final Fantasy 13. That thing sold like hotcakes, but
I know, I know, I know,
yeah,
but at the time, Final Fantasy 13 was in a swamp of first person and third person shooters, and it was a Final Fantasy mainline game and mainline wise, there hasn't been one in a while around that time when it was released. It was it was massively bought on hype alone. When people and the thing is that I'm like Call of Duty is still selling well enough. It's like the general populace believes that Call of Duty is still a pretty decent game. It's slowly
yeah.
decreasing, but it took years for it to get knocked out of its throne. But and
For
Dark Soul,
Battle Royale.
yep. But what I'm saying is Dark Souls has to be kicked out of its throne for people to make any kind of budge of a change in what they want from this game. But when Neo comes out, it's just like, well, it's just like people are saying it's more difficult. And people aren't going to want an easy mode once they found out there's a people are saying it's like when Pepsi and came out. People were saying like, "Oh, this is better than Coke." So Coke tried to double down and try to make a new flavor that would rival Pepsi. And in the
But
end,
now the question comes up: I why ask specifically for a difficulty for Dark Souls, but you won't ask a difficulty for I Uh, man, I just lost chain of thought
No, yeah,
completely. I'm
no.
getting
I actually I brought that. I was like, yeah, they wanted difficulty in their game in this game in the Dark Souls series, but it's difficulty is never a problem in any other game. Even with Devil May Cry out, no, there's like there is an easy mode. They can't say anything about it. Like, and even back then, sometimes, like in the older Devil May Cries, human mode was barely even a walk in the park either. So it's just like
because you
if
have
Dark Souls had an
tried.
easy difficulty and yet it was still hard to beat. Would
Then by that point, that's not the game. That's you.
and that's the thing, they think that an easy mode will make it to them so that they can play it. But what if the easy mode's not as hard easy as you thought it'd be? What if you're still getting your ass kicked? And then they'd be like, "Well, this is. Well, I kind of wish there was like a way to play it without any of the enemies attacking
Well,
you."
no, that would be the stopping point right there for me because it's like if
And
you got your easy mode, but you wanted to make it easier, it's like no, this is not your game. Go play something else.
yeah, because what if they
Because then you're just gonna keep saying make it easier, make it
because you want to
easier.
know
That's
you want to
just
know
not gonna.
something?
It's not
Ninja.
gonna work that way.
So one of my favorite, like Itagaki,
I
the godfather of Ninja Gaiden, his playtesters told him to make the games, or even I think it was either the producers or playtesters. They told him he should probably make certain areas in this game a bit easier because the playtesters are having trouble getting through it. So what does this crazy oatmeal raisin motherfucker do? He just makes it even harder. You see, it's not. Sometimes it's not all. It doesn't come down to what's good for the company. It's just I'm even the developers are people too. They have integrity. They have artist integrity. Hideki Kamiya had people test out Beautiful Joe, and kids were complaining like, "Oh, I hate Sylvia. She's annoying," or it's just like Joe's head looks funny, and like he didn't even listen to any of them, and he just rolled with his gut.
that's that's a game that I haven't heard.
And here's the thing: EA and Ubisoft and all these other companies, they will. EA will bow down to you and treat and give you what you want. Ubisoft will do it too, but it never works. Their games only sell so much. They
Yep.
do it like especially with EA. There's a game called I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Fuse, and that is a good example of where listening to the audience and the playtesters to give them what they want didn't work.
But that just as you can find an example that doesn't work, there's an example that does work. Now, can I give you one off the bat? No, I'm falling asleep over here.
No, yeah, no, of course. There's a lot of games that have actually been made easier for people to get into, but sometimes it usually most of the time when I've heard some of the games made easier for people to get into, it's from a series that probably hasn't had a main iteration of it. It hasn't gone. It's been a while since it's been a release. Dark Souls is still going on and strong. If it fails one day and it takes a while, they might add a difficulty selector. But until then, I mean, you're just gonna have to deal with the difficulty. And if you don't, then don't play it. I'm not saying
Jump
don't. I'm not trying to
into the
keep you away
endless
from it.
pits.
I'm just saying, look, if you don't want to play by the rules, you don't get to play at all. Like who plays tic tac toe with a bunch of random shapes and it's just like, oh, it's just a game. Calm down. I'm just trying to have fun and play with it. And so I was like,
You don't have fun in tic tac toe. Whoever goes first is gonna.
of course. I just wish that the like games already have a bad rep. Like if you play games, some you always you'll get a weird look, and maybe you'll be like some people be like, oh, you do play games. You never know. Like I went to the dealership one time and I met this guy and he saw my Persona 5 shirt and he was like, "What is Persona?" And I was like, I was. It took me by surprise, but at the same time, I was like, he's probably never played it, so I can't really fault him for it. He thought it was a fighting game, and in my head, I kind of laughed, but I didn't insult him because he's a big Final Fantasy player, and that's where I'm not really big on. I told him like about Kingdom Hearts, and I told him I played a little bit of Final Fantasy 15, but he told me he's kind of the guy that if I play an RPG, I will not stop playing it until I, you know, do almost everything. He's a completionist with Final Fantasy,
I feel his.
but he doesn't know Persona. But that's okay. And some people won't listen. The thing is
And
that some people won't listen
why
to
can't it
you.
just be that whenever some of the Dark Souls fans have their reactions with people play anything outside, why can't it just be that?
I mean, it's no different from when Call of Duty fans, when a new first-person shooter came out. It's because everybody's trying to. They're trying to go for the crown. Every game is trying to be that's coming out, whether it be indie or mainstream, is trying to be like a game that was successful in the past. It's no different from when Hollywood tries to reboot a movie that was already made
Eh,
and was successful.
I like Shinkiro, but I still want another Tenchu game.
Yeah, you see that, and hopefully that does bring light into it. But you know, the worst case scenario, but most likely is that we're gonna get a Sekiro 2 that may have one or two references to Sekiro, but probably I mean Tenchu, but odds are we might not get a Tenchu game. Who knows? We might. And so, like 2019 has caught me off guard by the surprise of good games.
Yep.
It's a good year for games. There's plenty of games out there for people to play that are very easy or have just the right enough challenges. It's Goldilocks and the Three Bears, folks. This game is too easy. This game is too hard. But this game is just right. Play the game. If it's too hard for you, play a game that's easier. That's if it's too easy for you, play a game that's harder. And if you don't know which ones, it's like, well, I don't have the time or money to pick which ones. And it's just like I can't help you there. Go like if I tell you to go on YouTube to look up in games, you're gonna be like, no, that's too much effort. It's like, well, then don't fucking, complain. It's like we're trying to throw you like. There's so many times where you try to throw a bone to people, and they don't take it. It's just like, what do you want from me? I'm trying to give you a game that I recommend because it's just the right amount of difficulty, but you're like, nah, I don't want to play that. Or because you think every other game's too easy, I try to give you a game that has more challenge than the games you think is harder. And you're like, no, I don't like playing those kind of games. And it's just like, I can't help you. I tried so hard. Like I tried so much to help you. I tried to recommend you games that were easier. You don't want to play them. I tried to recommend you games that were not too easy, but easier than Dark Souls, and you don't and have a lot more story, and you don't want it, or you've already played it. That's probably a faction that comes into it too. But if you're really trying to get people to get it, if you're really trying to get into Dark Souls and you don't like the way you have to get into it by trying to overcome the difficulty, I suggest another game because Dark Souls is rolling in money and the last thing they're going to do is change it.
Yeah.
EA companies like EA and Ubisoft and all these other like big corporations, they are failing at getting the target audience because indie games are becoming more and more successful, and they're having the amount of quality that surpasses even the most like expensive games that have been made. The Division 2 just came out, and I heard nobody actually talk about it other than like really diehard Division fans. So with these games coming out and from if back in the day people wouldn't even know who From Software is. People know who From Software is now. Dark
The
Souls
thing
put them
is,
back on
it
the
comes to
map.
mind. mean, they will be known for Dark Souls, and while us, it'll be known for
Tenshu, one of my older friends, I haven't seen him in a while. He was a big Armored Core fan, and I didn't know that was from Software until I looked it up.
yeah,
So they've been around for a long time. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, you got hardcore fans who don't want people to play their game because they complain about it being too hard. Then you got people who complain about it being too hard and it needs to be easier to a
And
point
then
where
you got the part of the fandoms to where you're not playing games by my standard. Therefore, as a gamer, you'll never appease to my standard of gaming. But then if the person shows that they're able to live up to it, and then they recommend you something else, you just shut them out and just say no. But you want them to play more of what you want to play though.
you want to know it's
Like
fun.
it can't just be a simple thing of, oh, he plays this game. Okay, I play this game. Why
And
can't
there's
it just
no
be that
problem
simple?
with that whatsoever
Why can't it just be that simple?
because no matter what, people want to have a reason to complain and they want to.
It's like, why can't we just play our game?
And it's like, it's the
Well,
thing.
but what
It's
that said, ugh, we said that we weren't.
I think this was something that has been bothering us for a while. I think we were supposed to get into more topics, but I feel like this one was such a big topic in of itself that we've been going on for a while. But my ending note will be this. I understand that there are people that want easier modes for games that have really interesting elements to it. But all you're doing is just complaining about it. It doesn't have one, and the more fact you try to bring it up, it just comes off as you didn't get your way. And it's funny when I see arguments that either both sides, they're saying one side's a big crybaby because they don't, they're sad, they're mad that people will play it because on an easier setting, and then the other side's like, these people are complaining that the game's too like are too hard and they're not learning the mechanics of it and they're just wanting to be easy so that they can brag about it and or like write their piece of it because most of the
But
time.
now here comes my. We essentially you can have an easier mode, but to avoid what your brain breaking up as the whole thing of it's not that hard. I played it, and then it's either they can do two things. It's either one, so like someone will just come out and just say why don't you play on the real difficulty, or two, you can have certain aspects of the game locked off until you move on to that difficulty. Kind of like bad back in the day, to where if you were to play certain games on easy and see the real ending, you'll just fade to black credits, supposedly to you actually beating it on how the game intended. Here's the ending,
Yeah.
and then if you crank it up a little bit more, then you see an even better ending with the true ending in mind. That's how this difficulty problem can be solved.
Or
Same for achievements. It's like, well, I got this achievement.
lock
It's
the
like,
achievements
oh,
until they can beat, like, let's say whatever the difficulty Dark Souls is, that's the true difficulty.
mm-hmm.
And like whatever it is right now, that's okay. So the easy mode is that there is no um the enemies aren't as aggressive. However,
But there's
what would be a
enemies
good
in
limitation? Like other than
removed
first off,
from the game completely.
yeah,
But
the
what were you about to say?
I was trying to say like the easy mode would be the achievements are locked, but what else would be? Oh, like certain story elements would actually be cut off too. Like if Bloodborne, you can't get that special ending to when you get the Madman's insight and fight the thing and become like the that baby, that weird like that weird alien thing. Forgot how that. Forgot
So
what they're called. But
I'm running off of fumes. So I
yeah, yeah,
can't.
yeah. I'm trying to like so like that like you can't get that. You can't get the like. There's a true ending to it. You can only get the
Yeah,
true ending in the master difficulty, which is just Dark Souls' normal difficulty.
essentially.
Yeah. So my closing statement is there is no easy mode for Dark Souls, and there's not gonna be one. The best thing to do is just move on. And if you really, really want to get into Dark Souls lore, subscribe to Vadi Vidya because honestly, he's probably the best uh, Souls lore guy out there. Also, he has a really decent voice.
What you mean? They just need to get good.
I mean, that would be like the smarmy way. I'm just trying to give them an olive branch. Like cynical me would say get good, but I don't like to use that term a lot because I'm not a Dark Souls player, and I feel like that's belong more to the Dark Souls fan base. It's more of a running meme in their community.
No, no. To be real, it's a
Like I'm a Ninja Gaiden fanboy. I'm like, you don't get good because they'll kill you. Like,
nah.
to we're gonna have to cut a little bit of this because we're pausing. But yeah, so enjoy games that you're able to enjoy, and if you want to get into these harder games, you might have to bite the bullet. But don't be afraid. The only person stopping you from playing these games is yourself. That's my closing statement. There has been some technical difficulties, and I'm not in been able to get in touch with Mug, but as usual, we're your host, Ed Tama 23 and Mean Mug XP, and we are the Kaze-kan podcast. Sorry for this long-winded rant, but that's what we just like to do, and we look forward to ranting more and more about shenanigans because it's fun. So, good night, everybody. We'll see you soon.